Turn down the lights, find your favorite blanket, and welcome to the Library of High Strangeness, presented by Simple Sidequests. Every week in the month of October, we will delve into the world's creepiest true mysteries. So settle in and try not to shiver as I tell you all about Timeslips. Imagine this. An off-duty police officer and his wife head into town to do some shopping. She's going to stop by a bookstore, and he split off to run some errands. On his way to the bookshop, he rounds a corner only to find himself in what he called a dead spot of quietness, not the bustling city street it should have been. An old-style van with the name Kaplan's on the side veers around him honking. Turning towards the shops, he starts to notice everyone is dressed in suits and dresses straight out of the 1950s. The bookshop is no longer a bookshop, but a shoe store called Cripps. As he looks through the window, a girl who is the only one dressed in modern clothing enters the store, so he follows her in. As he steps over the threshold, he finds himself back in a modern-day bookstore. He asks the girl if she saw that, and she replies, "Yes, I came in to look at shoes, and now it's a bookshop." Later, when he mentioned the incident to friends, he was informed that there actually was a store called Cripps, exactly where the bookshop now stands. What our friend experienced is what has come to be known as a time slip. And this particular street in Liverpool, England, has been home to more than one story like this. A university student named Jane was hurrying to meet a friend on Bold Street and called her to say she would be a little late. When she got about midway down the street, her call suddenly went dead. Looking around her, she saw what she thought was a movie set in the process of filming. The street had been turned into the 1800s with horses and carriages and people in old-style clothing. Even the lampposts had been changed to the old oil lanterns that had been used at the time. The street was bustling, and a shopkeeper who had been sweeping the step motioned for her to move out of the way, which she did. Off to the side, she looked down to see if she could call her friend, and when she glanced back up, the film set was gone. The street was normal, and even the weather, which had been calm and sunny, returned to being cloudy and windy as it had been when she set off. Confused, she met with her friend who had tried to call but couldn't connect. Later, she would look into what might have happened, only to find that she wasn't the only one to have experienced a time slip on Bold Street. Remember our policeman friend? His time slip into the 1950s had indeed happened on Bold Street. In fact, I found 4 more stories of time slips on Bold Street. Interesting that the place was the same, but the time period is different. You may be familiar with the idea of time travel, much like Ebenezer Scrooge visiting Christmas past, or Marty McFly saving the future with a DeLorean. But stories of time slips are usually unintentional and spontaneous. Accounts of time slips describe brief, confusing encounters with another time period, sometimes leading to observations of historical events or figures, or futuristic scenarios. Yes, time slips aren't always just a stepping into a time long gone and stepping back. For some people, a time slip means moving forward in time without any idea where it went, or even gaining time. Imagine a family of 4 getting ready for dinner on December 31st and looking forward to ringing in the New Year's. The sun is just set. Mom is almost done making dinner, and her daughter just finished setting the table when fireworks begin to go off from the center of town. While they enjoy the fireworks, the parents tell their children they will be even better at midnight. But the fireworks continue as if people are truly celebrating the New Year. So Mom checks her watch, only to see that it is already 12:15. Checking on her meal in the oven, she sees it is just finished. So, how did a meal she put in at 7, expecting it to be done in 30 minutes, only finish cooking at midnight? And what happened to those 5 hours? Time is always of the essence in an emergency. A paramedic describes being set out on a call and marks the time as they're required to do, 19:10 or 7:10 p.m. They have been sent to a home where a man has been badly burned in a grilling accident. After driving for a while, they arrive at the scene to see the man's hair is still smoking and blisters have yet to appear. It's as if the accident happened mere seconds before. They think quickly and submerge his wounds in an ice chest. While packing their patient into the ambulance, the time reads 7:08. The man has a remarkable recovery, most likely due to the quick response of the paramedics. But in filing the report, how does one explain arriving at the scene a full 2 minutes before they receive the call and getting to the medical center in half the time it usually takes? After discussing it with their supervisor, it was decided that the man's guardian angel bought him those extra minutes to save his life. These stories really can't be proven or disproven. Minutes or hours aren't usually tracked by people other than those who experience it. But if you recall, I did mention that some Timeslip stories tell of events in a far distant future. In 1932, a news reporter Hutton and a photographer Brandt were sent on an assignment to do a story about a shipyard in Germany. After spending the afternoon conducting interviews and taking photographs, the two prepared to leave for the day, when they suddenly heard the drone of planes overhead. Looking up, they saw warplanes begin dropping bombs. Anti-aircraft artillery began a counter-assault, and the world became chaos around them as bombs exploded and buildings collapsed. They rushed to their car, and the guardsman at the gate told them to leave immediately. But as they rushed toward town, the sky cleared. Smoke and fire seemed to vanish, and everyone went about their business as usual. Back at the newspaper, they developed the pictures Brandt had been taking during the air raid, only to see a normal shipyard. No planes, no bombs. Although both men insisted they had experienced an air raid, they couldn't prove it and had to let it go. However, in 1943, during World War II, the newspaper would report a successful air raid on the exact same German shipyard. The Med would say that the photos in the paper were exactly what they had seen that day 11 years before. In 1935, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard was flying from Edinburgh to his base in Andover when he was caught in a sudden storm and had to abandon his landing attempt. As he circled the sky to make another attempt, he looked for known landmarks to confirm his location. He decided to head to an unused airfield in Drem, Scotland. On his last visit years prior, the base was in poor condition and the runways were overgrown with weeds. As he approached the airfield, the storm suddenly vanished. What he saw below him shocked him. The airfield was not unused. Instead, it was bustling with life as mechanics in blue uniforms were working on yellow planes. One of the planes he could not identify. None of this fit with the planes or uniforms of the Royal Air Force at the time. With the weather clear, he continued to Andover. Once he returned to his base, he confirmed that the Drem airfield was still unused and there were no plans to reopen it. However, 4 years later, in the midst of World War II, Drem Airfield would become an Air Force training base. The uniforms for mechanics would be blue, and the planes used for training would be yellow. And a new plane would be introduced, the Supermarine Spitfire. If people can somehow slip through time, could it be that other things can too? Like a house, for instance. In 1860, in Suffolk County in the United Kingdom, Robert was taking a stroll through fields between Rougham Green and Bradfield St. George when he suddenly felt a chill in the air, and off in the distance he saw a large brick estate house with a garden in full bloom. When just as quickly it disappeared. 50 years later, Robert's great-grandson James and his friend George were thrown from a horse cart when a sudden chill startled the horse, and a large brick house appeared. Shocked, they stared at the house until it disappeared into a thick mist. George then turned to James and said in disbelief, "That's the third time I've seen that house." The house, known as the Rougham Mirage, would appear and disappear multiple times throughout the years. James would experience it twice more in his life. In 1926, a teacher and her pupil would see the house on a trip to the church, but returning could only find an old pond in a large overgrown area. In the 1940s, 3 traveling salesmen had seen the house from their car and thought they might make a sale to the residents, but by the time the car had turned around, the house was gone again. Sightings have happened in every decade, the most recent being 2007. A couple saw the house during a trip but couldn't find it on the way back and thought they had misremembered the location. Only years later, while reading a book on the local legends, did they realize it was not an isolated incident. Such a grand house would have been built by wealthy and probably well-known residents of the area. However, no one has ever been able to find possible remains or even records to indicate a house like this ever existed in the area. The stories go on and on, from time-traveling celebrities, time slips caught on video, even an astronaut carving in a 400-year-old temple. Our fascination with the mysteries of time are universal, and theories range from the scientific to the paranormal to the fantastical. Let's take a look. Theory number 1. Time slips are a glitch in the space-time continuum, either in our own timeline or into the timeline of a parallel universe. Some suggest time is not entirely linear, and hiccups or anomalies in the space-time continuum can cause momentary shifts that people perceive as time slips. Or as Doctor Who would say,
people assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Although it is a subject of both serious scientific inquiry and philosophical debate, scientific consensus does not support the idea of a non-linear timeline. However, modern quantum mechanics and general relativity reveal that time is not as simple as we think. Or, if you're more of a Marvel fan,
this universe is only one of an infinite number.
some suggest that different universes with different timelines might coexist, and a time slip could be a brief overlap or tear between these realities. A great theory, but as of yet, science does not support the idea of a multiverse. While some theories allow for the possibility of other universes, they lacked direct evidence or a clear path to scientific testing. Theory number 2, psychological phenomenon. For example, déjà vu, memory glitches, and even sleep disorders can create hallucinations, especially between waking and sleeping. These could create the illusion of stepping into another time. Neurological conditions like temporal lobe epilepsy have also been linked to vivid, otherworldly experiences. Additionally, some environmental factors like electromagnetic fields, low-frequency sound waves, or unusual atmospheric conditions could potentially influence our perception, leading to experiences that feel like time slips. Theory number 3, time slips occur through the supernatural world. Some theories suggest that time slips might be glimpses into alternate dimensions or layers of reality through the spiritual and not physical world. The concept of a clear one-way timeline is not a universally held belief. The Hopi people of North America view time as cyclical, reflecting the repeating patterns of nature, such as the changing seasons and the sun's daily journey. These cycles are important to maintain cosmic balance. If this is true, a time slip might be a momentary overlap between two different points in the broader timeline. Our ideas of time are often influenced by our cultural reference points, our fascination with history, and our tendency to find patterns in randomness. All of these will shape how we interpret unusual experiences and what significance we give them. In the end, it's up to you. What do you believe? Do you believe that under the right circumstances, people can physically walk through time, or even perceive other times through their mind's eye? Or are we simply creating our own narrative for situations that don't make sense to us? Do we crave a more colorful narrative in a world that's sometimes too black and white? Whatever it is, we know there is much more in and out of this world left to discover. And so I'll keep this collection of uncanny occurrence in the library of high strangeness.
La 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 la, I am weird.
Later, she would look into what... Remember our policeman friend? His time slip... Accounts of time slips describe for some people... But if you recall, I did mention that were sent on an assignment, flying from Edinburgh Edinburgh, couldn't find it on their way back, and thought they might have risked. Timeslips are get. Theory number 1. Timeslips are and hiccups or anomalies in the space-time continuum